This is the past Grand Masters History Project of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons of Washington. My name is Very Worshipful Bud Cook, and I will be the interviewer, and our audio-video operator and video editor is Most Worshipful Brother G. Santi Lascano. And we are honored to be here with Most Worshipful Brother Douglas E. Tucker, our Grand Master in the year 2008-2009. Most Worshipful, first allow me to thank you for taking your time to participate in this history project.
My pleasure.
Question number one, Most Worshipful, what prompted you to become a Freemason?
Masonry runs in my family, and I had grown up with my father and grandfather in Spokane, Washington, being in the craft, and I knew that someday I would probably join the craft, and the time came and I decided it was time to do it.
How did you come by the design of your Grand Master's pin?
The design came after I figured out the theme for my year. The theme for my year, of course, was Pass It On, and so I wanted my pin to reflect passing a message from one generation to another.
What was the theme for your year as Grand Master?
The theme for my year was Pass It On.
Pass it on. Okay. What were some of the major goals that you wanted to pursue during your term?
I wanted to get the message out to the craft through my theme that we were losing a generation of Masons, primarily the brethren that had come home from World War II were getting older, and we were losing men to the tune of 12,000 men from that generation a day in this country. And many of those men were Masons, and they had a story to tell. They had important information that needed to be passed on to our generation. And I wanted to get that story told before those men were no longer available to us.
What were the challenges of your term?
Well, one of the immediate challenges for my term was getting approximately 26 lodges to complete their paperwork on the Articles of Incorporation that had been adopted by the Washington Masonic Code. Several of these lodges had not even begun that paperwork. Some had started and hadn't finished. And it became incumbent upon me to make sure that these lodges finished that paperwork and then fell under the umbrella of the coverage through the state of Washington.
What are your favorite memories as Grand Master?
First and foremost, a lot of my favorite memories were the actual meeting with and interaction with the brethren of the state. I had a lot of enjoyable meetings. Was asked to come to several lodges, and I recall on several occasions talking with the master of the lodge, and he would tell me, "I am just sweating bullets because you're here." And I said, "You know, I want you to take about 3 deep breaths, relax, and understand that the only difference between you and me is the fact that it's brethren like you who go to Grand Lodge who have put a brother like me in the position that I'm in today. So relax, let's go have a wonderful meeting and have a good time."
Does the man make the office or the office make the man?
The office definitely makes the man. I learned from my father a long time ago, after I had become a third-degree Mason, had proved up. He said to me once, he says, if you never listen to anything else that I tell you, remember this: the job seeks the man never seeks the job.
What is it like being Grandmaster?
It's a tremendous responsibility. As a junior officer, you always rely on the knowledge and wisdom of the man who happens to be in the Grand East at the time. The realization comes to a head on your installation night when you realize the buck stops here. I have no one to ask advice of because I'm it. It stops here. But of course, then again, you always have the past Grandmasters to lean on in time of need.
Who was of the greatest help to you as Grandmaster?
There were several men who were of great help to me. Probably one of the most important would be my father. And very simply, he let me be my own man. I didn't have to follow his standards. He let me do the things that I felt were important to do, and I had his support all along. Another important man in my life was Most Worshipful Brother Bill Wood and Most Worshipful Brother Robert Van Zee, who were both very instrumental in helping shape some of my thought process. Another Grandmaster that I learned a great deal from were Most Worshipful Brothers Al Jorgensen and Chuck McQuarrie. They all played an important role in helping me to be the Grandmaster that I was.
Here's an obvious question. Do you come from a Masonic family?
Why, I believe I do.
What role did Masonry have in your life as a child and young adult?
Some of my memories growing up as a child, from about 1954 on, it was when my dad joined the fraternity, and I remember several summers, Audubon Park Lodge in Spokane had a Masonic picnic where all the families came together there actually is an Audubon Park, and we met there and had a summertime picnic, and it was a lot of fun.
What role did your wife play in your Masonic career?
My wife supported me and was probably one of my staunchest supporters. They say that this fraternity is good for us men. When I met my wife, she was a very shy individual, and many of the brethren and the wives in this fraternity can attest to that. Over the course of the time that I was in the Grand Line and then became Grand Master, things changed. She went from being only able to speak to a handful of people at one time to taking the microphone at our Grand Lodge and speaking to over 500 people. And it's been a thrill for me to see her progress as well.
What important Masonic changes have you seen in your career?
I have seen our craft in a lot of instances be, how do I want to say this? Due to the fact that we're losing members at a rapid pace, in some instances it's almost become paramount to have more members. we have lowered our standards from what they used to be years ago to a point where almost anybody can become a Mason. And I believe that we need to reverse that. We need to reverse that in that we need to raise the bar back up and have the standards that we used to have in order to become a Mason. If you look back in our history, you see civic leaders that used to be also leaders in our Masonic fraternity. Unfortunately, we're not seeing that anymore.
Did you have any reservations about becoming a Freemason?
For a lot of years I did. When I came home from the military in 1972, I could have become a Mason then. I had reservations about the craft. I knew really not a whole lot about the craft, but to be quite frank, I was not going to be part of a good old white boys club. That was my misconception about the craft until the time came and I realized that there was a flaw to my thinking, and I decided to join.
Have you helped others become involved in Masonry?
I definitely have. I just recently, a young man whose family lived next door to us in Spokane, we were talking one day and the topic of the craft came up, and I explained a few things to him, what I had done and what I was doing, and he wanted to know about Masonry and whatnot, and he says, how do I go about becoming a member of this, because it sounds like something I would enjoy? And I said, you just took the first step. So I was able to be the first line signer on his petition. I have recently found that he has completed his third degree and has proved up in open lodge on with his third degree posting lecture.
Outstanding. Is there anything that you want to talk about that we may not have discussed?
The only thing that I can think of would be along the lines of membership, and I would like to see our investigating committees actually do their job. Investigating committees are not a rubber stamp for membership. They're called investigating committees for a reason. I firmly believe that if this particular portion of the process of becoming a Mason were adhered to, we would not be having the problems that we're having with some of our lodges and some of our members today. And it's not just in the state of Washington. This is a phenomenon that's nationwide.
Most worshipful, what message would you like to send to today's Masons?
I would like our brethren of today to understand the importance of being a Mason, first and foremost. And I would like to reiterate the fact that the brethren, the job seeks the man. The man does not seek the job. If you are fortunate enough to be in a position of authority, if you are elected by your brethren to be a Grand Lodge officer and eventually a Grand Master, keep in mind that you are there to serve the craft. The craft comes first.
Most worshipful, in the name of our Grand Lodge and those who are involved with this project, I wish to thank you for your participation in this video history project.
Been a pleasure.